All right, we are here on the cusp of UFL Championship Conference weekend, and we are here with the one and only current member of the UFL News Hub family, and return along with Greg Parks. The big catches this offseason is Mike Mitchell. Welcome to the show, and good talking to you.
Thanks, Mark. It feels like we've been doing this forever now. I know you've been doing this for a long time covering these leagues, and it's good that it's still ongoing and moving forward, even if there are some hiccups along the way.
Yeah, 2018 is a long time to spend waiting for this thing to really kind of uh to kind of kick into high gear. But so first off, let's get your thoughts on the season. What did you think? I mean, you're the guy when it comes to attendance and ratings. And one of the questions when if we get into ratings is the ratings just the TV ratings, or does that also include the streaming numbers?
So on Fox, it does include in the streaming numbers. Fox does combine their streaming numbers along with the TV rating that they get from Nielsen. The ESPN Disney side, they do not.
Hmm.
So, I mean, there are times where they'll make announcements about digital engagement and tie that in, depending on what sport it is, that kind of stuff. But no matter how many times I've asked, and I ask all the time, they won't disclose it. And it's like, for example, we had a recent game that was moved over to ESPN Plus because of rain delay, because of delay, and it was at 3 o'clock. And then I asked, see what they say, and because they don't release that information, there's no direct number on the ratings there. So the Fox one is. And the ESPN one isn't. Now we're in a different world. It's constantly evolving in terms of like viewership and everything else. And so Nielsen is trying, Nielsen Media Research, who I've been in contact with, I'm trying to get more information for UFL News Hub as we go along here. We're down to three final games. They're working on a lot of tracking of streaming and a lot of different ways to track viewership. It's not an exact science. Another full disclosure moment. I used to be part of a Nielsen family household back when I was living in New York. And the way a lot of and now some things have changed since then. I know that's a different universe, but the way it works is like if I'm here from home and I have a Nielsen box here, I represent my neighborhood. I represent my region.
Hmm.
So viewing habits. It's not every home has a Nielsen box. So that's basically how Nielsen does it. So you get a percentage of that. So it's not so like say, well, wherever you live, Mark, if you had a Nielsen box, they would track your viewing habits, your family's viewing habits, etc. And then that would be juxtaposed or formulated to represent the particular area you're living in. Because not every. So there may come a day where, and now I know it's evolving somewhat, where TV devices themselves will have tracking, more and more tracking, and that everybody will be able to. They'll be able to have a more accurate picture on
Hmm.
the rating. So it's not an exact science, and but yeah. So that's kind of the story there. The streaming Fox, yes, disclosure. Disney for the moment, for the longest time, no.
Did they break that out for you, or they just say it's all in
Not
there?
not individually. It's a cumulative.
Yeah.
So it's not. They. I wish they would.
Hmm.
Um, you know, again, a lot of times with these networks when they do PR releases, sometimes they'll add the digital engagement aspect to it to like butter it up the eventual number at the end there. But they won't actually say, well, this is how many people, unless it's an absurd amount of people that actually streamed it. And I know now people track Netflix and all this kind of stuff. So it's evolving as we go along. But if a network doesn't want to disclose it and they have an agreement there, then they don't allow anybody to monitor. It's like ESPN News. Recently, we had a UFL game that ended up on ESPN News. We only got like 98 minutes on ESPN. That was, I guess, week 10, right? And so the ESPN News, Nielsen, Disney, ESPN told Nielsen to not monitor, to not track it. So no
Hmm.
shows on ESPN News, and we saw that happening with the CFL when they were on ESPN News. Um, there was no ratings available
Hmm.
because nobody was monitoring.
So, because I'm really curious if the streaming numbers have gone up, but I guess if there's any positive numbers, they would probably announce that.
They would probably announce it. I would say more and more people are watching it. I've caught myself on a few different occasions watching it on the Fox Sports app. depending on what I'm doing and all that stuff, having it in the background while I'm doing something else. So I know people use so many different devices nowadays. Their phone, sometimes you'll be doing something, you'll have it on your phone. So it's a different world for sure. They're not releasing those numbers, Mark. Like specific numbers. It's difficult to pin down how many people. I know, like you're from the wrestling world, AEW. Just recently, I guess their Dynamite show is on Max.
Hmm.
So now you can kind of tout, they can tout and say, well, we got 600,000 viewers on average on TNT or whatever, TBS or whatever they're on, and they can fluff it up and say we got millions of viewers on Max
Yeah.
because of how many subscribers they got, but who knows? They don't give you the actual concrete data
Hmm.
to you can fluff it up all you want, So it's kind of it's a unique world we're living in with the way things have evolved with how people consume content. And so, and how upfront and transparent networks are in relaying that info.
Yeah, because I don't think I was really surprised at how just the fall of cable is just accelerating. I mean, you have ESPN doing their own thing. Fox is like bundling all of their stuff. I mean, this wasn't the case 5 years ago when the XFL first came out. But really, at the end of the day, when it comes to the whether or not the UFL is going to survive, is what are the people behind the scenes, Fox, and particularly Jerry Cardinal at Redbird Capital. And you have some info on the story that we did or that interview that he did where he mentioned venues. Do you want to kind of let us in on that?
Sure, and I know some people read his comment, Jerry Cardinal, that is in Redbird. And I have been in touch with people at Redbird and at Fox Sports, and just asking them things about things we're all wondering, just as supporters of the league, relocation, the venues, the issues they had with Audi Field and Ford Field. And Jerry Cardinal made a comment recently that they have to do a better job of picking the right venues, and I think, understandably so, some people thought maybe he was saying that there were attendance issues because the venues maybe weren't nice enough or didn't have the cachet. But that's not what he meant at all, because I wanted clarification on that. So I spoke to a couple of people inside Redbird, close to Jerry Cardinal, and I was told that the comment was not so much about the venues itself, because no one could argue Ford Field is beautiful. It's a gorgeous,
Audi Field's nice.
yeah, and so Field's nice, and where the defenders play is nice. So the issue with the venues is how cooperative they are as partners, and meaning like the UFL is tenants at these specific venues, and they're treated like they're not top priority. And how are you going to be top priority over other established leagues?
Hmm.
But they're like fourth or fifth in the pecking order. And so when I broke the story over at UFLNewsHub.com that if the case was that DC and Michigan had won their respective conference crowns during the regular season, that they wouldn't have home games. Everybody kind of knew about the Audi Field situation,
Hmm.
but Ford Field was kind of funny. They needed stadium upkeep and maintenance because of the Kendrick Lamar concert,
Hmm.
which is why, and I know it's very elaborate that they're having here in a couple of days, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So the 12th, like that. So anyhow, but the issue that Jerry Cardinal's bringing up is how the venues treat them, how the venues do not work with them to sell more tickets. To sometimes, like I just saw recently, I want to say a day or so ago, on social media, where someone was showing the Dome at America Center not having the Battlehawks listed, like on their billboards, awnings, promotional material at the venue itself. Like when you go to a lot of venues on the outside, you'll see an advertisement for tickets being sold. You
Hmm.
would figure at the actual venue that would be flashing left and right. And St. Louis does well, obviously. I mean, they're down a little bit this year in attendance, but
Hmm.
I mean, it's hard to knock the Battlehawks attendance when they're dwarfing everybody else in the league. So that's the point of contention and the issue. A year in advance, the UFL was telling Audi Field about the accommodations in case they had a playoff game. Ford Field, same thing. And the venues will not, there's an old saying, and I think I wrote it in my article when I talked about home field advantage and what would happen with the venues and all that. Beggars can't be choosers. Well, that's kind of the situation the UFL's
Hmm.
in the sports landscape. I hate to put it this way, but they're in the beggar mode. Like if you have a venue that has high profile concerts and big time sports leagues, NHL or whatever it is, NBA, etc., NFL, and and then you have all this other stuff, these ancillary stuff that people are into, whether it be racing or this, that, or the other, motor
Hmm.
truck stuff. And we saw it last year too. Michigan would not have had a home playoff game had they overtaken Birmingham a year ago because of a graduation ceremony.
Mm.
So when a graduation ceremony is higher pecking order or equal pecking order with the UFL, that tells you what the priority is with the league. So I think, and I know, it's not even I think, I know that Jerry Cardinal's comments about picking the right venues is about picking the right venue partners, people who will actually be proud to have the league, promote the league. When I called up Ford Field to speak with representatives about whether or not their field would be available for the Michigan Panthers in the playoffs, the people I spoke to forgot that they had the UFL. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to 3 years. So,
Yeah.
and they were surprised that people even care. Like, there are people who care. And I said, yeah, and so I was telling them there are a lot of fans that, they're building momentum, they're doing well.
They
To them,
are.
it's not impressive. It's not that impressive to be, to have 11,000 crowd or 12,000 crowd or 13 or 16,000 like the last game, the Jake Bates bobblehead game.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was a very smart move. And you got to give credit to everybody who's working with the Panthers. They've been working very hard. And we have a tough time in this space. A lot of us fans, yourself, myself included, because at the end of the day, I don't have a favorite team in this league, but the whole team is my favorite. The whole
Hmm.
league is my favorite team. I'm rooting for the league to succeed because I love what it means for the football landscape. How many players get jobs, coaches, etc. I believe there's so much talent out there that don't get an opportunity in the NFL that are
Yeah.
getting it in the UFL. So I see the value in it, the innovation, the technology, all this stuff that the UFL is kind of bringing to the forefront, being ahead of the game, helping the NFL really. So anyhow, but we're all rooting for this league together. So I want to see the league do well and prosper. And so when you see these issues with venues and not being treated properly and attendance struggles and some rating struggles, it's a little tough because you worry about the prosperity and the long-term health of the league. And like every year, you wonder at the end of the year, you hear the right things, but you always wonder, will there
Hmm.
be a next year? And I mean, we'll probably be saying that a year from now, hopefully. Uh, will there be a 2027? Well, there'll probably be a lot of articles out there. So,
Yeah.
um, it's kind of a unique situation because I do know this, and this was an article, if I want to write about at the site, but there are end of season meetings that are planned between Russ Brandon and all the big heads at the UFL. And those end of season meetings are to discuss all the things everybody's speculating about, the relocation possibilities, expansion possibilities.
You think they'll bring up our names?
Well, it's very possible. They're fully aware, like they're fully aware of all the work and what is done and what is said. And I know that a lot of stories I've broken that people were very upset that I released information that were just directly from meetings and that they
Mm.
were told to keep quiet
Mm.
and to loose lips sink ships kind of
Yeah.
deal. So, and then even recently, I wrote an article not over at UFLnewshub.com, but at All Football Digest, where I got a little bit of trouble. I can't get into it too much, but
Mhm.
I decided to delve into some stuff that maybe I shouldn't have. So I had to apologize to certain people. A lot of the information I get is off the record, and I may have shared something that I thought was on the record. Um,
Gotcha.
so yeah, so it happens. You make mistakes in life. So I made a mistake there. But they definitely to get back to the beginning of what you said, they definitely listen and they know about your story. They know about you now. Full disclosure, we're in an interesting space here because a lot of our content creators, for whatever crazy reason, go to war with one another or are a little snooty and angry with each other.
Uh-huh.
So instead of lifting each other up, we're kind of critical. So I know some people out there, some other content creators were criticizing you for publishing the story about the trademarks silliness.
Uh-huh.
You in your article, you said this could mean nothing.
Yep.
Which at the very end of the day, there may not be an Oakland Invaders. There may not be a Philadelphia Stars again. There may
Right.
not be, even though it hurt me personally because of my upbringing, it may not be a New Jersey Generals.
Mm.
But it could very well just be IP upkeep, right? But you came out, it could very well be, but it's
Yeah.
noteworthy. It's something to mention and talk about. It's noteworthy that these things are updated. And it seems like maybe some other teams have been updated too. I'm not even sure. It's confusing once you get into these trademark websites, right?
Hmm.
What's abandoned, what's dead, what's back to life, what's still in suspension, what isn't.
Hmm.
But it was a noteworthy thing, and that it was an interesting story, and it got a lot of people talking because all the content creators out there were talking about your article, and which many of us have done. A lot of the hardcore spring league fans have spent time trying to find clues, trying to find information, trying to see what's coming,
Hmm.
and I know for a fact, I can tell people out there who are listening to this, watching this, that Mark does in fact talk to people within the league, and a lot of the stuff that he's written about and said is stuff that's relayed to him. So it's not out of thin air baloney stuff.
Right.
I'm not just saying that because I've worked with Mark from the get go, um,
Mhm.
and that we've known each other for a while, but it's so there's validity to the stuff. We've seen recent stories. The Memphis Showboats looks like they'll stay. You wrote in
Yep.
your article how that FedEx connection and is still something they're hanging on to.
Yeah.
And so something you wrote, a lot of people expect Memphis to be or Houston to be out. They may very well not be. So end of season meetings, Russ Brandon, all those guys are going to be talking about all these things. The initial plan, as I reported, as people know, and as you wrote about at UFLNewsHub.com, David Dykman came out, let the cat out of the bag. One of
Hmm.
the top guys in the football personnel department said, we're going to introduce two new teams. That might be press. They might press pause on that. I
Hmm.
heard Russ Brandon recently in an interview talk about how they specifically did not give a timeline on expansion because it's a fluid situation and they don't want to rush into it. They don't want to make any promises. So when I heard him say that, I mean, you don't want to read too much into things, but you get the sense that maybe they could be pressing pause on adding two new teams.
Yeah, that's going to be because it's funny because that article, and I just want to point out James Larson also confirmed the stuff about Tom Brady, which was funny because I didn't believe it was true, and I said that in the video too. And I actually was at a DC Defenders game, and someone, we were kind of talking, and they were like, "Oh, did you hear that fake news about Tom Brady buying the Tampa Bay Bandits?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know about that. I was the one that wrote it." So uh, it was kind of funny. And that was to me, that wasn't even the biggest story. That was a big story that people, I mean, pro football talk picked up on that and stuff. I was more interested about the Oakland Invaders. I thought that was kind of out of left field. But the one thing with this league is that they
Yeah,
don't.
and I got in touch, and this is an evolving situation. They might be because Danny Garcia was on. A lot of people when I wrote an article didn't even know this podcast existed, so maybe they
Mhm.
could thank me for the increase in listeners.
Mhm.
But the Fourth and 12 podcast for the UFL, which is their official podcast, I wrote an article talking about comments Danny Garcia made there, where she was talking about how proud she was about all the IP that the league owns. They have so many options and all that trademarks, and so I just think I just find it, man, I don't want to go on a rant and go, I'll be combative here because I have a tendency to do that sometimes. But I just find it funny that, we're like all in the same space. We're all rooting for the same things. And then there are just certain people in the space that can't help themselves but to get all upset and angry. I got in touch with Mike Florio when your story came out just to double check with him. He went and verified it. He even wrote in his article that he went and verified it.
Mhm.
So I don't know how many people in this space actually reach out and talk to Mike Florio or talk to the Ben Fishers and all these people that
Mhm.
follow these things, the Josh Germans, the trademark lawyers, and to try to find out. You said it openly. It was a speculative, fun piece.
Yeah.
The Brady thing is funny because I've heard it's okay to sometimes speculate and talk about what it could mean rather than what it is. So it's like, I understand people want to have like high integrity or virtue signal that
This
they're a
is spring
journalist.
football. It's not that serious.
Yeah, and it's okay if you see trademarks updated to say, hey, could there be an Oakland team? Isn't
Here's the
that interesting?
thing that was interesting about that, was that this league compared with the XFL when it was under Vince McMahon, they were very hush hush about, and they would like, there was a very like deep way that they would hide this stuff because Vince knew how to hide stuff from the dirt sheets when it comes to trademarks. So he knew how to bury, and that stuff was buried. The UFL was not buried. I mean, I knew about the name way in advance. I bought the domain. Like everything was set up on the day that they announced the name because it was in the trademark. So I'm just following that same pattern. They're not very hidden when it comes to the trademark stuff. And,
And
so
they
that,
have so many trademarks. We know, Mark, you and I
yeah.
know that if they update the IP for 20 names, they're not going to have 20 new teams,
But
right?
here's the thing. This is a new, here's the scoop. These are new serial numbers, not old ones. So yeah,
Yeah.
things can be updated or whatever, but these are brand new serial numbers. And that's why it flagged it as like, yeah, you already had a serial number for that same IP. Now you're adding another one. You're giving it this kind of like blah, description, but that's to lock it in, basically.
Right.
So anyways,
Yeah, yeah. But
so
anyway,
what do you think? So do you
so I'm
think
sorry.
anything is, let's get into that real quick. And that's the fun thing. I think the league would get a lot more buzz if they added new teams. If they go status quo for another year, guaranteed attendance and ratings will go down. You have
Yeah,
to add two new
I
teams
think so
and
too.
they need to be in big markets.
I think part of the reason that attendance and most specifically the ratings went down this year, I understand people mentioning all the competition, when they start, etc.
Hmm.
But a part of the big reason was the novelty of the merger. The first year of the merger, it wore off.
Yeah.
They didn't have an additional hook. Now, I know the big issue that this league has is it's a small league, it's a young league. They only have 8 markets, so that limits your overall ratings. They're not Some of their markets are pretty strong TV markets, but they don't have the New Yorks, the LAs, the Chicago's, Philly, even, that a Bay Area team, so they're relying upon certain segment. And so I don't know. I mean, when I look at it, when I think about it, I think that if they come back with the same 8, uh, it's going to be tough. I think they need a new hook, and I think once they put the carrot out there, even though Russ Brandon says, we didn't put a timeline. Once you put the carrot out there that they're going to expand, coming back, not expanding, and then having the same teams that are struggling, um, you're really going to have to be very strategic and or do what I've been advocating for. Easy for me to say, it's not my funds, is actually put more money into promoting and spend money on making creating more product awareness. We see it all the time on social media, all these places. There's still people that go, that's still around, or there's still people that think it's the XFL,
Yes.
or and that kind of stuff. So I mean, the UFL has an issue with the product awareness, and it's tough. It's so easy to get lost in the mix in the sporting landscape when you're
And things
looking
have
for
changed and compared to
things have
2020
changed
and
immensely.
2023.
Yeah, things have changed immensely. One of my articles, I posted some of my tweets back from 2020, where I used to do sports network comparisons between the XFL at the time and every other sport, and the XFL was similar or better than the NBA, MLB, NHL, all the top leagues, NCAA games, college basketball. That was similar or better. I remember when the XFL had better ratings head to head than the NFL scouting combine on ABC.
Wow.
And then so I posted one of those, just as an example. I took the screenshot.
Hmm.
Um, this was back when I was XFL writer, Mike Mitchell, at the
Hmm.
time. Mike Mitchell, XFL writer. So anyhow, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. So I think that we're going to be supporting it. I love the football
Yeah.
product. I enjoy. I can't
You
wait for
can't,
the games.
yeah,
I
you can't
know
complain about that.
I know there are plenty of warts with the games. There are plenty of ugly games. There are plenty of poor
NFL
performance.
has ugly games too. So,
You could argue for more preseason games. You could
mhm.
argue, for certain things to try to help improve the quality of the league, the quality of the play, some of the rules, some of the time it takes for these games to complete, how long they take with replays and all that stuff. So there are certain things you can critique for sure, but at the end of the day, I love the football aspect of it.
Yeah.
I love what these teams have built in. I love what St. Louis and DC. St. Louis, I can't think of a team that has more pressure than them to win
Yeah.
this Sunday. How they choked under the pressure last year against San Antonio at home. If they don't make it to the title game with the stage set for them, um, that's going to be crushing, devastating for that
Yeah.
franchise. So I mean, and for people who are rooting for the league, and I know people in the league office are rooting for St. Louis to get to that title game because if they do,
I'm stuck because I know for a fact, I mean, it's going to help the league. Of course, I want to see my DC Defenders win it all, but um, it is what it is.
DC has no pressure on them. Like they
Yeah.
have the interim coach. Their staff's going to be like, most of them going to be leaving to go to Tennessee State to Reggie Barlow, like Fred Keiss, etc.
Uh-huh.
And so all the pressure is on St. Louis this Sunday as they play DC. If it's a DC Birmingham championship game, we'll be fortunate to get 20,000 fans for that.
Yeah. All
That's
right.
that's
So to wrap this up, what is your predictions? We'll give you the two games, the championship game, and then what happens on the off season, which is the
okay.
main thing I think people are more interested in.
I think Birmingham's going to beat Michigan. I think Bryce
Mm,
Perkins is playing, but I think he's been off for too long. He's coming off an ankle injury. Stallions have a very fast defense. Perkins did not play that well. I know it was in that weird part-time share thing early in the season. Did not play that well against Birmingham early in the year. Stallions are at their best now. It's hard to bet against Skip Holtz. It's not a
mhm.
big deal, the quarterback situation. Every championship he's ever won, he's using two quarterbacks to begin with. So if he
Yeah.
doesn't rely on Jamar completely, don't be surprised if he goes to the bullpen for the relief pitcher. Um, so I like Birmingham to win. I know a lot of people are rooting for Michigan just to change things up. They're going for a fourth straight championship. The Stallions are. And on the XFL side of things, I think the DC Defenders win. I think the weakness for the Battlehawks beyond the pressurized situation they're in, the weakness for them is their pass defense down the field. And that happens to be DC's strength this year. Jordan Teamo at full strength. He's had one of his better years, and it's not because of a high completion percentage. I think it's in that 54, 55 range.
Mhm.
It's because he's made big plays down the field. And we saw the Battlehawks pass defense struggle against Deion King and the Stallions with big plays down the field. We saw Bryce Perkins almost lead Michigan to victory in that exciting shootout there on ABC with Joe Tessitore.
Mhm.
Um, so anyhow, so I like the Defenders and the Stallions in the championship game, and then I think the Stallions win it all in front of
Oh,
21,000 fans.
okay.
I think they exact revenge from week one when the Defenders shocked the world. Reggie Barlow leaving a few days earlier when
Yeah.
DC beat Birmingham week one.
Oh, that would make some good stuff with the trash talking where you think I'm a
Remember
doorman or
the,
whatever.
the doorman business.
That would
That's
be
it.
great. That would be good television. I'm for that. And then so what do you
I'm
think
down for any matchup, but I know from a league perspective, if I'm rooting for attendance and ratings and for the mainstream media to pay more attention, I know if it was St. Louis winning a championship, um, or at least being in the title game, you could push for 50,000 fans, and that kind of championship game scenario would be electric.
And I think the best thing for the league is Michigan, St. Louis.
I thought it was the best game of the season. I'm usually not that active on social media, but when that game happened, I was all over the place talking about how I felt that was the best game of the season, how great it was, the Joe Tessitore thing. That was a back and forth game. It was exciting as hell.
Yeah.
So I think it felt like a championship preview. So it could very well be, but it's hard for me to bet against Birmingham. And I just have to see Max Duggan get it done in the air. The defenders are going to try to force him to beat them. The
Hmm.
Battlehawk strength has been running the ball. Their weakness has been against the deep ball, against the pass. DC's strength is throwing the ball down the field with Jordan Teamu. They have a plethora of wide receivers. Scott's healthy. So I think there's a Cornell terrific year coming
Yeah.
from the Chiefs in the UFL. You got Jaden Mickens. You got all these talented guys. Every year that DC produces good wide receivers. They have several still on NFL teams right now.
Yeah. All
Kelvin
right.
Harmon, Braden Smith, Lucky Jackson, etc.
So what do you think? All right. So then what's happening in the off season? What is your prediction sure to go wrong? And if you're wrong, all
Sure.
these haters are going to hate you and tell you how
Oh,
horrible of a
sure,
human you
sure,
are, et cetera, et cetera.
sure. I think the initial plan was for the UFL to add two new teams. I don't think they're going to.
Mm,
And I also think they're going to stay right where they are.
mm.
I
I
had
mean,
one person, I had one person, it's boring as hell. I had one person has close ties to the DC team that told me several weeks ago that he felt that for sure they were relocating two of the teams
uh,
and that they wouldn't expand in 2026. When you start talking to several different people within the league, and people who are close to the situation, there's so many different houses, from the
mhm.
Fox side, the ESPN side, the UFL side, the Redbird side. So they all have different ideas and what they think is going to happen. And then, so it's hard to like report something as fact. I've heard the Brady stuff for forever and a day, but I also heard Michael Strahan as well. But
Mm,
I can't, without confirming that.
mm.
Um, they have had talks with people about, hey, if we do sell up franchises, would you be interested? And they've talked to people in the sports world and people like Brady and all that stuff. So I will see what happens with that. But it's boring as hell, Mark. but I don't think we're gonna.
Everything, even no
I
relocated
don't think
teams.
we're gonna. I think they're gonna press pause on it. My feeling, my sense of it, and I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. Trust me on this, because I think nothing would show better growth for the United Football League is if they were to add two new teams
Hmm.
and maybe relocate two of them, but at least add two new teams. I think that would show growth to the outsiders too. It's like the UFL has a problem. They're trying to. They got a core audience and a kind of an audience by default. They're still trying, in how many years now spring football has been around, to attract the mainstream and casual football fan. You're not going to get all of them, but some of them or a few of them, and that's how you grow your audience. Because if you just stay with the core, they're always going to have these similar numbers that we see now, which are okay, which are fine.
Yeah.
But I think the idea here is to try to grow it and try to become more popular. And so I hope they have. Right now, I reported it initially that once they announced that their intent to expand and and all that, they made that public. I was told that they're going to add two teams by 2026, with the idea of adding another two in 2027, right? Which would
Yeah.
get them to 12. And but the way you read the tea leaves on this one,
Hmm.
it doesn't feel like they're ready to do that.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is whatever, and it's been prioritized now from what was told to me. Whatever they do, relocate, expansion, the biggest key for them is having a partner in the venues that are actually promoting the league with them, that care about them being there, that prioritize UFL games, and don't treat it like it's just some guy who's coming in to pay 2 days your Airbnb
Right.
or whatever and give you rent that way, because that's how the UFL feels in these situations that have arisen. They haven't been happy with the Birmingham situation for a while. Um,
But you're going to get the same deal next year if you don't
yeah,
expand. That's the problem. It's
so
not going to get better if you don't expand, period.
I mean, so it's problematic, Mark. I know if they just repeat a lot of the stuff they've been doing without any like real strong actions, right?
Yeah.
That maybe shift the tide in Memphis or shift the tide in Houston
Or maybe
or
they're going to add another camera to their coverage because they love to talk about how inventive they are. And I'm like, dudes, no one cares about that stuff. Stop.
and it's
Stop talk.
awesome. I mean,
It's
I had a
cool, but
couple.
it's like it's not going to draw
Yeah,
fans.
it's not enough. It's not enough. It's a shame because I had a couple of NFL people who are writers who actually like caught the UFL. Like they've ignored it. They put it on ignore mode, and they've caught the UFL and they've caught some of the. They can't believe it. They're like, if only I would see, like, say for example, Kyle Shanahan talking to Brock Purdy like that on Sundays. I think an NFL fan's head would explode
Yeah.
if you have the kind of access you get in UFL that you don't get during
Mm.
game day live in the NFL. It's just a lot of people don't know these players, so they're not, the
Yeah.
casual fan doesn't really, they don't have an attachment to these players. But like, I think social media would explode if you had a whole game where Josh Allen's on the sidelines talking to Sean McDermott and all the players there, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey and all that stuff that we hear, the play calls, everything else. So anyhow, but yeah, it's not enough, Mark. I think that's my prediction right now. Even though I reported, it's not so much of it's a feeling I'm getting, because I reported, and David Dykman went out publicly and said that we already have two new teams we're going to add for 2026. But plans change, and I think they're pressing pause on a lot of stuff because we already lived Cashman Field. We're living what we're living with these venues and cities that they chose. And it's, all of us have argued for non-NFL cities over NFL cities,
Mm.
but I just find it funny that like DC has done okay. Michigan is doing well. They got the Detroit Lions. So I think it goes beyond just, it's not black and white. There's a lot of areas of gray. It goes beyond, and Memphis is a non-NFL city. How's that worked out?
Right.
Birmingham's a non-NFL city. They do well in the ratings, but attendance has been, for how great that franchise has been with Skip Holtz,
Yeah.
it's an embarrassment that they have to beg and plead to try to get to 12K or
Yeah.
13K or 14K.
Okay.
So, I
Oh,
mean,
well, we'll
but that's
see.
where we stand. I don't think we're going to get expansion, and I don't think, and this will maybe even frustrate people even more, I don't think we're going to get relocation.
Mm. All
I
right.
want to be wrong. Trust me, I want to be wrong on these
I
things.
have a feeling you're right, but we'll see what happens. All right. The
We'll
great
see. I
Mike
mean, I'll
Mitchell.
be pleasantly, in a perfect world, and I think I've written this, said this other places, Mark, just real quickly here. We get to the UFL championship game, and they're at halftime, they announce the two new UFL teams that are coming.
That
No
would be
better
huge.
place. That game on ABC, in theory, should be their highest viewed game of the year. It's on ABC and on prime time. The two best teams. You get some more. Last year was 1.5 million, whatever it was. You get more casual fans. The league does very well on ABC to begin with. So, they've had several games over 900,000. So I think that championship game is going to be their most viewed game. And in an ideal scenario, at halftime, while you've got mainstream fans watching, or some people, casual fans watching, and for the loyal fan base that's watching, you announce the two new teams are coming. The day after they announce two new teams are arriving, the expansion, um, it's really going to rejuvenate kind of the faith and energy
Hmm.
amongst its own fan base and introduce two new markets to the league, to
Yeah,
Springfield football. So
need to
whether
do
that
it.
be Oakland or anywhere, I hope they do it. Unless I hear something differently in the next week or so, I'm getting the sense that they're not going. We'll see.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there we have it. Mike Mitchell, appreciate you being on the program, and we
Thanks so
will
much
keep
for
in
having me.
touch in the off season. Hopefully we have fun things to talk about.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks again for having me.